We've spent weeks, literally weeks, talking about what the Kevin Durant era means for the Phoenix Suns. On today's episode of Locked On Suns, what the Phoenix Suns era means for Kevin Durant. We're flipping it. Marcus Thompson of The Athletic, who wrote the literal book on Kevin Durant, is joining us. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, the credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 6 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show wherever you get podcasts. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Friday, closing out your week with the show. We appreciate that big time. We're on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. We are free, no paywall. The best way to support the show is to listen, to follow, to subscribe, and to drop a comment down below with your thoughts on Kevin Durant's career, the moment in time that this is for the new Suns superstar. I don't want to waste any time. We'll dive right into our interview with Marcus. Today's show, guys, is brought to you by Nissan. We'll have a Nissan Energy Player of the Week later on in the show. First, let's dive in. Marcus Thompson of The Athletic gives you all you need to know about Durant's career and life up to this point and what comes next. We'll record in 3, 2. All right, and now we are here with Marcus Thompson, a columnist at The Athletic, longtime Warriors chronicler, and the author of the book on Kevin Durant. I wanted to bring Marcus Thompson on to give Suns fans, although I know there's a bunch of KD fans at this point who follow this channel as well, who want a little bit of a taste of what this all means big picture. So Marcus, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure the audience will appreciate it as well. Let's just start big picture. What interests you the most when you saw the news, when you've had almost a month now to sit with it since he was injured and then the debut yesterday? What interests you the most about this chapter for Kevin and what it kind of means for his career?
Yeah, I guess the part that interests me is, he went to Brooklyn like to play with his friend. You know what I'm saying? Like he went like, me and Kyrie, this is my guy. We're gonna link up. We're gonna do this. And obviously it didn't work to the degree that they wanted. They wanted to win a championship. So now I'm curious how that impacts his approach. Like how does he just go about it now? He wants to win a championship. Like if KD, he's about getting the ring. He's about proving his eliteness. So is this better for him that he's with maybe guys he's not best friends with, but guys who can win? The thing about him that we learned from his Warriors days is that he could mix into anything, right? And Phoenix already has like this kind of machine on its own, even though they did lose 2 key defensive players. But like I'm just curious to see how does he do it? Does he take over? Does he come like, yo, this is my squad? Or does he say, hey man, I'm just blending in to kind of elevate the Suns? But he's older now. Like he speaks with so much more wisdom. And it's just not the same, right? Like he's not KD from 2016. So now I'm very interested in seeing how he handles all this.
I am too, and some of the points you made, you could hear in his introductory press conference, right? Some of the stuff about, even it kind of struck me to hear him say, he came back to it multiple times on Wednesday night when he made his debut, that he was nervous. And that sounds funny to think about with a guy that's so great on the court. But I do think he's approaching this situation. I think being traded he's been public about that's been an adjustment and kind of a weird thing for him. We all know how little time there is to make this work. And he seems to be approaching it with a humility that I guess I wouldn't say surprised me, but it feels genuine in a way that I kind of did think. And I think a lot of fans, when you see Kevin Durant is coming to your team, it's like, all right, like whatever it takes, whatever adjustments need to happen, let's roll out the red carpet and make it go. Maybe that's something we see in the summer. I want to talk about some of that friendship stuff too in the next segment. But in terms of what makes Kevin Durant kind of tick and what this might mean for him, and as much as we can pretend to know or guess around with what's going on in his mind, Marcus, I think so. I went back and read your piece in February 2019, which was the time when he had his media blackout and when Kristaps Porzingis had been traded. It's a deep time machine to get into, but at that time you wrote a lot about how you said basketball is his sanctuary, right? And I think a lot of the stuff that you'll hear him say now, he gets away from that championship stuff. You know, he doesn't really want to put the expectations there. He doesn't even really want to talk about that in terms of where his head is at. And I don't know if that's where his head actually is or not, but that's interesting. And it feels like a little bit of an evolution for him in terms of how he speaks about his greatness, how he speaks about his career.
I think it's a sign that he already know, like, he's stamped, you know, like he's anointed. So, you know, he clearly wants another title, but he's still Kevin Durant, right? Like, and the way people talk about him, like, yo, this is Kevin Durant. Like, he might have been an MVP if he stayed healthy and stayed in Brooklyn. Like, and that's the kind of validation. I've always been very interested. He's such an interesting dude, man. He's so diverse in like his person, but there's totally an element that's still, you know, the kid hooping and see pleasant, right? Like, who just like, man, I just want a ball and I want to be on the court and I want to be happy and be at peace. Like, he can go there. He can just get lost in the game. That's when he was with the Warriors, especially that first year, 2 years, it was just the joy of playing basketball. And perhaps maybe he lost some of that in Brooklyn, right? Maybe it kind of got away from him with all that was going on, and it seemed to never be about basketball, right? It seemed to be about a lot of other stuff. So I could see him totally relishing the idea to just be like, yo, this is just about to be about ball. It's about to be about hoop. I'm with dudes who just hoop like that, like, you just get it up. And I mean, you don't get more pure like basketball types than Booker and CP3, right? Like, so I could see him relishing that. He just has a way of getting lost in the game. But I also think he understands I'm still KD, right? Like, so everybody understand what is understood doesn't need to be said. So I do feel like he knows what's up.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I think people are going to get a sense of right away. And it's not to be like, you know, I know everything about basketball. People know this already, but the difference between what Book is, which you can take nothing away from, which Suns fans don't need me to tell them is special, and what Kevin Durant is, right? There's so much levels, of a difference, right? Probably in basketball, maybe more than any sport, right? Like, it's one thing to be top 15 or top 10. It is another thing to be top 3. And that is, like you said, a dude who, if he doesn't get hurt, if Kyrie doesn't ask out, if he doesn't end up getting traded, he genuinely might have won the MVP trophy. Like, that was on his radar.
There are definitely like levels to this, right? Especially considering like what Book is great at is like the same thing KD's great at, right? So you'll get to see Book's ability like literally live. So it's not like Steph and KD, right? Where these are two completely different players, and now you're essentially discussing which one is preference, right? Preferential, but I mean, they both live in the same universe, and you're gonna see like, oh yeah, hold on, he could do that, and it's just there's such an ease to how he does it. You know, look, I'm a huge Book dude. Like, I feel like Book's been the MVP. I know people love Chris Paul. Chris Paul is great, but to me, that's Book's team. So like, it's no shot at Devin Booker at all. But like, Kevin Durant is a different monster. He's 34 years old. He's been through everything, and that's the interesting part, especially considering how his career started. Like, he spent 8 or 9 years in Oklahoma City. Like, he was one of them. He was gonna be Dirk. And now he's on his fourth team. right? Like, so he's
Yeah.
seen it all. He's done it all. He's been at every level. Like, and he's also like one of the great talents of all time. So, like, you're definitely going to see another level, especially the later they go, the deeper they go. Like, the best basketball he's played in his life was in the playoffs with the Warriors, right? In the finals. So, the further you go, the deeper you go, the more you're going to see like the ease of how he does his thing doesn't change very much, right? It's still similar.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike Brown. So I wrote this piece at Suns.com kind of introducing him to the fans. And I just tried to take as many quotes from from like this era, right? Post Thunder that I could find. And one of them actually was recent because it was when Sacramento was in town and Mike Brown was asked about it, obviously former Warriors assistant. And it feels like it kind of sums it up. He just said he is going to do some things that make people here in Phoenix go, wow, we're lucky to have him. And it's like, sometimes it's just that simple. And I feel like against the Hornets last night, you saw exactly sort of, it is just different than other people. Like you watch him play help defense and it's like, that guy just takes up more space and knows where to be more than other people do. He can create, all the room he needs for his jumper in a way that not many people can. He can just make something out of nothing. And it is that sort of simplicity. I think to your point though, and where I want to go next, Marcus, is it's that joy and love of the game stuff, because this is going to be a sprint for these guys. And the more I was kind of sitting back and thinking about what made Booker and Paul click, to think about what might make Durant fit in here, it kind of really like dawned on me again that there's no reason for Booker and Paul to have anything in common with one another or get along, right? They're like, Chris Paul could be his uncle, and he comes from a different place, and Book doesn't even have a wife, let alone kid. Like, all these things are so different, yet they figured it out. And I think that part of it is why, is just kind of that joy and passion for the game. They're junkies on this stuff. And I think that should help. But you mentioned friendship at the beginning of the conversation. So that's kind of where I want to go next in terms of, this isn't going to be like Brooklyn. What does that mean? We'll get into that after a quick break here. Nissan's Most Electric Player of the Week is brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Aria. That Electric Player of the Week is, unsurprisingly, Kevin Durant. He returned this week. He got all the attention, and he deserves all of the attention. He is electric. He is fiercely elegant. He is stunningly powerful out there on the court. You saw him shoving guys to create space at the elbow. You saw him blocking Mark Williams at the basket. You saw him dishing it ahead. You saw him being a good teammate to Josh Okogie, all of it. And he very well deserves the Most Electric Player of the Week, brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Aria. The 2023 Nissan Aria packs pin-you-to-your-seat power and premium intelligence all-in-one EV. The all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Aria is the EV for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com. All right, back here with Marcus Thompson. Wrote the book, KD, Kevin Durant's Relentless Pursuit to be the Greatest. Covered him over at The Athletic for his time in Golden State. Marcus, in June 2019, I went back and found that column of yours as well, and it said the decision by Durant revealed what he valued most: friendship. And then you talked about some of the issues systematically and talked about how the original Warriors core isn't as connected off the court as it may seem. None of them are inseparable away from the game. Each of their lives pulls them in different directions. Kind of feels like where I think the relationship with Book and Chris is, this isn't going to be like that. You mentioned Brooklyn might not have been at the end either. I know you haven't covered him day to day in a while, but what do you think that layer of this will be, and how he might kind of fit into this locker room?
Yeah, that's the part that's interesting. I'm wondering if, like, he wanted that and then he got it, and I wonder if he's like, yo, I don't need that. Like, him and Kyrie still seem like they're friends, right? It doesn't seem like like they don't talk anymore, or it's beef, right? But do you have to play with your best friends? And to me, the ability of KD, the part that's underrated, is he can just do just about anything. Like, you can put him on any type of team in basketball and he'll be just fine. And I don't want to say the issue, but the question mark is that the off the court stuff. Can you put him in any situation with any coach, and he's able to find that happiness where he is? So now I'm curious, like, has he found it, right? Like, is it like, yeah, man, I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to be with my friend. I don't need to be in a setting where, I govern everything or I run it. Like, that's what I'm curious about, but, or is there a priority shift where it's like, yeah, playing with your homies is cool, but it's far more important to play for a coach you rock with. You know what I'm saying? Like, so him and Monty both from PG County, right? Like that talk about uncles, right? That could be his that could be his uncle. They're from
Yeah.
essentially the
Yep.
same soil. That respect goes back, and even you can go back to the Oklahoma City days, right? Like, one of the still like most poignant moments in KD's career was when he's talking to the media about Monty losing his wife, and like you just don't see players crying, breaking down about or about anything, but especially about an assistant coach. So
Yeah.
like that relationship is strong. So that's what I'm like. Are he showing out? And then obviously the reports about Steve Nash and Steve Nash getting fired. It's like, is that what he values now? Is it like the constantly evolving and growing and changing KD? I'm just interested in what moves him at this point, because he can play anywhere. And that, like, talking about Book
Yeah.
and KD, like KD don't need the ball. Like, he could play off the ball. He can be a cutter slasher. He's getting 25 no matter how you cut it. The question is, does he
Mm-hmm.
get 40? Right? But the
Yeah.
whole rolling
Exactly.
out of bed getting 25, like he's getting that no matter how you do it. So he's pliable from a basketball sense with just about any situation. Now I want to know, and I'm like, you can tell he's excited. You can see the giddiness, right?
Yeah.
What makes him at peace now? Is he just now like, man, he's an OG now. He's got everything. He's got all the money. He's got the rings. He got the title. He's got the wisdom. He's got the experience. It's like, yeah, man, I'm good. Whatever. But also, I do wonder. I mean, he's gonna love Phoenix fans. He's gonna love the love he gets. Like, it's gonna be different, right? Like, and imagine if he
They
wins a
are
title
already
there.
giving that
Like,
to him. Yeah. Hasn't even played a
so yeah,
game here,
that
and you feel like he's a legend. Yeah.
and I still
I was,
believe like
yeah.
the place he deserves was Seattle, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
the place that would treat KD like the player, like a player like KD should have one fan base fighting for him in the stands. You know what I'm saying? Like like Brooklyn
Yep.
can't be that. Like Brooklyn can't be. They just don't care that much about. And with the Warriors, like it's Steph, it's Draymond. You know what I'm saying? And I think he would have got there eventually if he
Mm-hmm.
stayed, but it would have taken some time. But Seattle's the one place where it's like, yo, they still rocking KD jerseys and Sonic jerseys in Seattle, right? So, and Oklahoma City would have been that place, but that relationship, took its turn. So if you had to pick a place where it's like, where could he get that vibe? I'm thinking Portland and I'm thinking Phoenix. Like, those are the kind of
Mm-hmm.
Northwest super rabid, like just go crazy for you and hoop, right? Like, I think that's a vibe he'll like, because like if you're in that place and they're winning and it's rolling, like it's top shelf, right? And then you inject the new
Yep.
energy of the ownership, right? Like, it's just like, all right, there
Mm-hmm.
might be something percolating here, and I think he's gonna like that element of it.
Did you see the press conference / fan rally? Did you see the craziness
Yeah,
they
yeah,
did out
yeah.
here for him?
You know what I
He seemed
thought?
like he was
So
enjoying
like,
that. I
not
mean, how could
one,
you not, right?
not two. I thought he was gonna get
Yeah,
off of not
basically.
one, not
If anyone was, I think the probably the owner would have been the guy to hype up the crowd. He was loving it as well. The Kyrie thing, I listened to the podcast he did after this week after the trade, and it was his first time. I mean, he's done these press conferences and whatnot, but that's different for the reasons we just illustrated there. not to pretend to know a million things about somebody from a few public comments, but one thing that struck me was the way that he you said the word compartmentalize, and that's what I used on the show when I was talking about his comments on that podcast. Like, he seemed to be able to appreciate and respect and kind of root for Kyrie, but he wasn't necessarily talking about their parting of ways as like, I'm disappointed I won't get to be around him every day, or like, I hope I can see him soon, or we got to get dinner when he's in. Like, it wasn't that. It was like, I wish him the best. He said they hadn't even talked since probably whatever the last time they were in the Brooklyn facility was before Kyrie asked for the trade. And that was this week. So that's been almost a month. So that kind of surprised me to hear a little bit in terms of where their friendship and relationship ended up. And it did give me a little bit of insight, I feel like, into why he might be okay moving on from that being the priority of, I need to be around my favorite people all the time.
Yeah, I just always felt like there were two parts to Kevin Durant. One is almost sappy basketball type, right? Like very network television type. I want to play hoop. I want to be with my guys. I love the game and friendship and everything. Like, he's got that in him. And when you talk to him, if you just talk to him, like, not the interview stuff, but just talk to him, just have a conversation, you could see why, like, he's that way. He's just a regular guy, right? Like, even part of his whole social media thing is like, yo, like, treat me like, think of me like I'm a regular dude. You say something to me, I'm gonna come back to you. Like, I'm just a regular guy. He's got a very, like, down to earth kind of disposition. To be somebody who's so tall, he can make himself, 5'11", like, personally, right? So, but then there's the other dude who's an assassin who's like, you better respect my name, right? Like, the dude who will say on wax, y'all know who I am. You know who I am, right? I'm Kevin Durant. So these two kind of elements, maybe he marries them now. But I always thought there was a part of KD that you put him on a team, you put him in a situation where he's happy, like, he's gonna be fine. Like, he doesn't. It's not about all of the other stuff. Like, he could just fall in love with basketball. He could just be in love with basketball. So there's that element of KD that's uber professional, right? Like, one of the things that is constantly talked about, one of the things that amazed the Warriors was how hard he goes in practice, and like how he does his warm-ups and his workouts, like at like full game speed, and just the seriousness with which he approaches it. Like, he's just a uber professional, right? And if he's on a team with a bunch of professionals, I feel like he's fine. And maybe he values that more when he's in a situation where you got people who are like impacting the professional part with the personal part, right? You got Kyrie not playing for, taking stances and all this. Who knows what's happening with Ben Simmons, right? Like, and KD, like, look, man, rain, sleet, or snow, I'm hooping. Like, no matter what, we out here, we got a game to play. So I'm just, it would make perfect sense to me if he just like, all right, I've had this, I've had that. I've had the homie family environment. I've had the pinnacle of superstardom with the Warriors. I've had a little mix of both with, man, just give me some dudes who go play every day and hoop and let's go win. I just want some professionals with me. Like, that would make sense because that's who he is in every sense. Even in the worst, when it was the worst it was with the Warriors, you count on KD to be at practice and you count on being on the court. Like, he was going to play every time. So that's just who he is, a professional. I think him and Chris Paul, right? Chris Paul, like, his reputation is part of how he can rub people the wrong way because he's so serious about this, right? He's not playing. Like, if he gonna get on you about it, like, that's Kevin Durant without the get on you about it, right? But that's how maniacal he is about basketball and about winning. Like, he's not taking those shortcuts. He's not taking days off. He's not all that other. He's not doing it, and he's like 30 plus, right? With all these miles, and he's like, yo, I'm playing. Yep. So you get him with 7 guys, like Torrey Craig, right? Like, I don't even know these dudes. I bet you him and Torrey Craig be cool. Torrey Craig don't do nothing but get out there and play Ish Wainwright, right? Dudes are just going like, man, I was at a Suns practice, Ish Wainwright, campaign, practice over. These dudes just going at it. I was like, yo, who is this dude Ish, right? Like, oh, football player, right? Them dudes are gonna be his dudes. Watch. Those are KD type guys. Just roll the ball out and we're gonna play. We're gonna play until we can't, until we tired. We're gonna get something to drink and then we're gonna keep playing. That's Torrey Craig, right? Like KD gonna love.
Sure.
I already know it. The KD gonna love those guys.
They have that culture. I mean, that's real. You know, I think there's things you can, as with any team, even great ones. There's going to be some negatives, but the stuff that Monty preaches, the stuff that these guys say publicly about the culture, the work ethic, the fact that it really is just about work, about playing, that's not a lie. And so I do think from that standpoint, it probably made somebody like James Jones feel comfortable. We can bring him in even mid-season, and that adjustment period is not going to take much for us. But we're already getting there, so let's go a little bit fast forward, look toward the rest of the season and maybe a little bit beyond. We'll do that after one more quick break. If you're in the mood for a delicious treat but you don't want a ton of fat and calories, you've got to try a Built Bar. With Built, healthy is actually tasty, and they're so delicious you won't even realize just how good they are for you. What makes them so delicious is, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate, each and every Built Bar. And on top of that, they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. We're not sure how they do it even after all these years as partners, but Built makes each bar taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they're healthy, only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein on average in each and every bar. You've been ordering from Built.com for years, but now you can go to Walmart or Sam's Club in your local neighborhood and get a box today. 4-bar boxes in the pharmacy section at your local Walmart, 13-bar jumbo boxes at your local Sam's Club. If you live in the Valley, no shortage of those on nearly every street corner. Check it out today. Built.com, your local Walmart or Sam's Club. Get a Built Bar. Get your own. Try it today. All right, back here for one more segment with Marcus Thompson, columnist at The Athletic. Marcus, so to finish up what we were saying in that last segment, you mentioned those two parts of Durant, right? Savage and sentimental. I think I'll pull from another one of your columns. That was how you put it last year when he declared the trade. I hope I'm not making you uncomfortable going back and grabbing all these things, but that was what you did and or what you said. And I think it's a great way to put it. I think that's you bring a lot more of the sentimental, but I do think there's obviously that savage part of him, that killer mentality part of him, that, you know, I'm Kevin effing Durant part of him. He wouldn't have come to any team, right? He came to the Suns. He came to a team that was in the finals, then won 64 games and is still in position to compete for championships. What, from a basketball sense or whatever, are you going to have your eye on with a pretty unprecedented sprint of 19, now only 19 games to get this all figured out? Because we've never really seen this in the NBA. I've said it a million times. My listeners will be probably sick of it, but there's never been a trade in NBA history where the best player joined a team that wanted to win a championship. Never. We had Pau Gasol, we had Clyde Drexler. Those guys were number twos. This is the best player on a team that wants to win a championship needing to be integrated in a quarter of a season. So what about that are you going to be keeping an eye on? Oh, can't hear you.
First and foremost, right?
Yeah.
Not that it sounds. I don't like the whole "is there enough ball" and all that, because I feel like that'll work. But just how the roles change and how fast they can figure that out. I don't think either of these guys are like "give me the ball" types, right? I mean, Chris Paul's going to have the ball in his hands, but you know, there's a dance. There's some rhythm and chemistry to the when and where and how, not necessarily the who. And they have to figure that out. There was a point when he first came to the Warriors and Steph was struggling. Like, it wasn't because like KD was like, "give me the ball" or nothing. It's just like, how do you fit in? Like, how do you do this? You've been doing it, especially the Phoenix team, right? And the Warriors, they've been doing it for years. They won 73 games doing it. And now it's just different because you got this massive figure here. And KD had to go to Steph and be like, dude, just play your game. Like, just so you. And he's like, am I a floor general? Am I setting them up? Like, how do I operate? So it's like how fast they can figure that stuff out. Like, and it really matters end of games, right? Like, what's our flow end of games? We see Kyrie and Luka having a problem with that, right? End of games. How are we doing? Are we just taking turns? Like, so you got all this great talent. Now it's about making it link in a way that's efficient and effective. So that to me is what I'm watching. How Book handles that. I mean, like you said, like we all know, like before, I guess some people could question it, but it was like, yeah, Book's best, or it's a CP3, like, and they don't really talk about that stuff, but like not verbally, but you talk about it in the possessions, right? You talk about it when Luka's talking crazy and you're on the road in the playoffs. Now you determine who's the best player by like, yo, give me the ball and I'm running it back, right? Like, so now Kevin Durant's undisputed. So, like, how does that work? Like, how does Book in that situation say, yeah, I'm going to be a screen setter now, not the bucket getter? And not that he doesn't want to do it, but then you get into, all right, how do I do that? How does, all that stuff you got to learn. But then the other thing I'm thinking about is, and as talented as they are, I mean, they took a hit where you don't want to take a hit. And perimeter defense. Like, I mean, they gave up. I mean, Mikal Bridges is Defensive Player of the Year material, right? He probably should have won it. He's the guy that makes Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, John Morant say, let's change up how we do things because this is Mikal Bridges, right? Then you got Cam Johnson, who's another one of those guys. Like, I mean, in a place that's super heavy on guards, now you got to deal with Luka, and you got to deal with Kyrie, and you got to deal with Steph Curry, and you got to deal with John Morant, and then you got to deal with Jamal Murray back, right? That just feels like, oh man, I think that's gonna hurt more than people think. Like, KD's a great defender. I don't know if I want to put him on some of these small guards, right? So I want to see how they handle this. How do they defend? Because that was a literal strength, was that you could go say, put Bridges on somebody, take him away. And then when Bridges needs a break, let's throw Cam Johnson on another 6'8" long wing. And you'll be able to do some of that with KD. But I don't know if you want a steady diet of that. I want to see how they handle that, right? And now, of course, the answer is, we could match anybody bucket for bucket, right? But like, I don't know if that's how you want to win a championship, but in the end, you can match everybody bucket for bucket. I do want to see how they solve that. And then the elephant in the room, I don't know if it's the elephant in Phoenix, but it's the elephant outside of Phoenix. I'm thinking about it is, what happens with DeAndre Ayton? Because he ain't getting no touches.
Yep.
Well,
No, I mean, you saw it right on Wednesday night, 7 of 10 from the floor. He made almost all his shots, still only got 16 points. So
yeah, I mean,
it's going to be different.
Is he going to be all right?
And they're going to rely on him more with that defense now, right? They're going to need.
Absolutely. Now it's like, bro, we need you to anchor this defense. We need you to be there. And how does he handle it? And I do think early, like, KD is an unselfish player. He probably will become a champion for DeAndre Ayton. He'll probably just be like, yeah, this is my guy. We're going to feed you. We're going to get you going. But playoff basketball is different. It's different. Like, you're not in the playoffs. You might get, they could end up with like the Clippers or the Warriors in the first round, who are like begging you to feed DeAndre Ayton as your steady diet, right? Yeah. Like, please do that. Like, you're not worried about DeAndre Ayton getting his touches in the playoffs. So I'm curious, can he just become 10 to 12 shots, or matchup, like letting the matchup define when he eats, and being an anchor on defense, because he's got killers now. KD shoots probably the same percentage, just from mid-range. So it's like, how does he handle that, and how does that work out with the history they have? So those are the three things that I'm kind of looking for.
Yeah, Ayton is a guy, I will say, like, he in the playoffs, well, the second round last year, he disappeared, and that was illustrated by, Monty and him going at it after or during Game 7 against Dallas. But outside of all that one moment, every other series he's played, I think he does get hyped on winning in the playoffs. Like, he is a guy where you'll see him have quiet nights and you don't feel like he's disengaging. I think he does that in the regular season, but I do think he appreciates being part of a team that's winning in the playoffs.
I think you saw that in the finals run. Like, that's where you saw it. I mean, that's why you think he can get there. I don't know what was going on last year. It was just weird. It's just a different. It's just a different world. Like, and the other thing, the Suns got that kind of chip on the shoulder. We don't have no respect. Why we ain't getting the national attention? Why our guys gonna lock it up? How KD is here? It's every day.
True.
Every day. I already.
I was gonna say, have you booked a flight yet? Or
you going to? Yeah, exactly. Like, this was all right. Where you going? Like that. All right. What you asked for, you about to get, right? Because this is Kevin Durant on your team. Like, so how does everybody handle that? Like, all that stuff is some of this stuff is really small, but in a pursuit of a championship, it's the small stuff that does it or not. You know what I'm saying? Like the Warriors beat Memphis last year on the very small. Like, we like it really came down to what's his name, Jaren Jackson Jr. We just got to give him a foul trouble. That's it. We got to get them out of their game enough to get him and Dylan Brooks in foul trouble, or we need to bait Dylan Brooks in the shoot too much, right? Like, it's little the psychological stuff that makes a difference. So, but the good news is for them is they got Chris Paul and they got Kevin Durant. I mean, these dudes have just seen literally everything, so they should have all the tools. It's going to be a pretty epic run, I feel like.
It's going to be fun. I have one last question for you, which is, if you had to look into the crystal ball, do you think Kevin Durant finishes his contract in Phoenix? I don't know about after that, but would you guess he's here for the next 3 years?
I'd say, yeah. I feel like at some point, I don't know how much Chris Paul has left, but he'll probably get to pick a point guard. If Chris Paul leaves, he'll probably get to pick the point guard. I'm very curious about him and Monty. I know him and Steve Kerr did not click like that. Clearly, him and Steve Nash did not click like that, and him and Jacques Vaughn didn't click enough for him to, for him to stay. But I just wonder if the history between him and Monty was like, all right, man, it's just me and you. Like, we're going to do this. I could see him staying. I could also see him being tired of moving. Right? I could see him being like, all right, man. All right, Kevin. It's time to settle down somewhere. So, I mean, you never know with KD, but it wouldn't shock me if he rides it out. And, he typically does 3 years. It's like, all right. We'll do my 3.
It's true. It sets up that way, I guess, for him this time, where he'll get right to the end. I mean, like I said, I don't know what's going to come next, but that even could be retirement. So you never, you're at that point with him where it's TBD on kind of all fronts. But
thank
you so much for doing this.
Retired in 3 places? Can he have his jersey retired in 3 places? If he win a title in Phoenix, right? He's getting his jersey retired.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you mentioned it with the Portland thing. This is their first one. Like, doing it here would have a special meaning because it's never happened before,
And he's going to get his jersey retired with the Warriors. And Oklahoma City's going to have to retire his jersey one day. Like, they can't not do it.
That's probably up to him more than them, right?
I don't think KD got a problem with OKC, or he didn't when he left. But he might have his jersey retired in 3 places when it's all said and done. If he wins the title in Phoenix, that's 3, that's pretty impressive.
I think Suns fans listening to this or watching this will agree with me that I think that they would be fine with all 15 guys on the first title team getting their number and jersey retired.
They create a second
the desperation.
Ring of Honor, huh?
Yeah, just an exhibit in the arena just for that team. I think it'll be special no matter what it is. But thank you for doing this, Marcus. You guys can read him at The Athletic. The book is KD. I was thinking about this before I hopped on with you. I might buy the book and do a giveaway. I want to read it. Then I want to do a giveaway with a fan. So hit subscribe and keep up with that, everybody. But that'll wrap us up for today. Check us out after the game tomorrow against Chicago. We'll do a bonus episode with KD's second game here in the Valley. And next week, Dallas, more games, more craziness to keep up with. So hit follow or subscribe wherever you're finding the show. And I'll check in with you all tomorrow.